Welcome, everyone, and good afternoon to the Multifamily Housing Partnership Update. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Angela Denton, your Deputy Administrator for Multifamily Housing Rural Housing Service. Angela?
Thank you, Scott. Good afternoon, good morning to some of you. I just want to take a few minutes and share with you my appreciation for you taking time out of your day to spend with us here in multifamily housing on our first partnership meeting of the new fiscal year 2025. I also want to recognize the individuals that have been impacted and the properties that have been impacted by Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, and assure you that multifamily housing is working through any and all possible flexibilities as we navigate the recovery efforts and the rebuild efforts around our properties and also for our tenants who reside in those properties. And with that, I would like to take this time and just hand it over to our team to get into the important information that they have prepared to share with you today. I will turn it over to the Asset Management Division, Mike Resnick.
Thank you, Angela, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to, as Angela said, the first partnership meeting of the new fiscal year. I hope this finds you well, safe, and enjoying some fall weather. The first thing that we would like to discuss today with some policy updates from the Asset Management Division is the fiscal year 2025 management fee. That was published back in July, and a little bit about the development of the 25 management fee. In fiscal year 24, we adjusted the management fee by the HUD published operating cost adjustment factor. The national average was over 6% or $5 a unit, and our national average was $80 per unit per month. So for 2025, we really wanted to look at it. We did understand that there was some additional inflationary pressures on certain areas within the portfolio. So we wanted to make sure that we had an equitable distribution of management fees throughout our portfolio. So as part of the 2025 development of the management fee structure, we brought all properties up to the state average or national average of $80 per unit before we utilized the OCAF adjustment increase on top of that. So that equated to about a $9 per unit per month increase across the board to bring the national average up to $89. We did feel that that was the right thing to make sure that all of our properties were at least at the national average prior to doing any type of OCAF adjustment going forward. We will continue to analyze the management fee in coming years to see what inflationary pressures are putting on you as a management company and providing services oversight of the portfolio. So we are very excited about that and hope that that does provide some additional relief for your management agents and the properties. So the next thing we would like to talk about today would be some of the policy initiatives that you've recently seen. Now, on October 3rd, we did issue an unnumbered letter with guidance for emergency call systems, i.e., some people know these as pull cords. Now, this unnumbered letter clarifies that RD does not require the use of emergency call systems in any of our multifamily housing units. However, there is a caveat. For multifamily housing properties that continue to utilize an emergency call system, we do say that the unnumbered letter, best practices and information on compliance requirements that require you to continue to utilize, and they must comply with all of the upkeep, regulation, and advancements in the technology. So there is more information on that. Again, that unnumbered letter was issued on October 3rd. Please refer to that if you have any additional questions regarding the emergency call system. The next thing is the modernization of the multifamily housing insurance rule. We did do a proposed rule on that last year. We received numerous comments. We have reviewed those comments. We responded to them, and we are submitting our final rule through the clearance process. And this will change, again, insurance coverage amounts, deductible limits, and additional items to try to give some relief, but also provide replacement value, increased deductible limits to try to make affordable the cost of rising cost of insurance throughout the portfolio. The final rule has been submitted to our Regulation and Management Division to start the clearance process, and we are very hopeful that that will be published sometime this winter, maybe as early as January of 2025. We're very excited about that, and we do appreciate all the comments and suggestions that were provided to us as part of that proposed rule process. The next thing would be the Housing Opportunity Through Modernization Act. Easy for me to say. HOPMA. As you know, we did issue a stakeholder announcement on October 3rd because shortly after our stakeholder announcement regarding the unnumbered letter this last summer providing timelines, which stated that we would implement HOPMA on January 1st of 2025, HUD also released a new notice delaying their implementation to July 1st of 2025. So rule development has followed suit, and we are delaying our implementation of HOPMA to July 1st of 2025. We did issue the updated stakeholder announcement on that on October 3rd as well, with an updated timeline. We're continuing to update the tenant certification form for HOPMA, and we hope to have that available here in October, maybe in November, as an updated 3560-8. Then those will be used for all the new submissions of the tenant certifications effective July 1st, 2025 and later. Now, the current version of the form, it will be relabeled as Form 3560-8, and those will still be used for all tenant certifications with effective dates prior to July 1st of 2025. We're also updating Handbook 2 with all of the HOPMA updates as far as income and assets that was originally scheduled to be released in October of 24, but that will come out in January 2025. We want to make sure and give our friends at HUD all the opportunity to make any additional modifications that may need before we issue our guidance. Next slide, please. So decoupling authority for fiscal year 24, just give you guys a little update. As you all know, we did receive the decoupling authority under the Section 521 in the Consolidated Appropriation Act of 2024. And you'll also hear us refer to the program as SARA, Standalone Rental Assistance. The authority is decoupling. The program is named is SARA, or Standalone Decoupling Rental Assistance. The authority gave us up to 1,000 units of decoupling rental assistance for natural maturing mortgages. There were 34 owners that were notified of their maturing mortgage within 2024. We did provide notice to all of them. We had an application period that closed on September 16th of 2024, and we received 10 applications to continue with the SARA process. And we are actively processing those toward closing. Now, as part of the SARA, again, the rents will be based on fair market rents and adjusted annually by OCAF. It does obligate the owner to continue to maintain and operate the property as decent, safe, and sanitary housing. And again, the key to decoupling is it is an important tool to preserve the affordability of the Section 515 portfolio and allow for the continuation of the project-based rental assistance. Now, under the continuing resolution that's now through December 20th of 24, we continue to have the decoupling authority available to us, and we will be reaching out to owners that have properties maturing within that time frame. Now, if we are afforded the opportunity to continue with the decoupling authority as part of the 25 Appropriation Act, we are already working diligently on preparing a Federal Register notice announcing the fiscal year 25 decoupling authority or SARA program and what those guidelines will be. If we are given that opportunity, again, for the additional appropriation, we do plan on making enhancements to the program. Some of those could include, transferability, assignment, other rent options. So we are actively looking at all options available, contingent upon appropriation language giving us the authority to enter into decoupling. So more to come on that. Very exciting news, a lot of work going on, and we look forward to being able to share that with you in the near future. And finally, asset management, we do have a poll question that we would like to ask you some questions on here. And if we could pop that poll up, and, to enhance customer service, would you like to hear more about decoupling, HOTMA, Housing Opportunity Through Modernization Act, transfer of ownership, meaning the simple transfer pilot, or other? If we could get everybody to please vote on that, we'll give a few minutes here, a few more seconds here, and then Scott, if you could publish the results. All righty there. It looks like of the 181 votes, 38% of you would like more information regarding HOTMA, 30% would like on decoupling, and 28% transfer of ownership, simple transfer. This is great information. Thank you so much for this. This will help us develop additional trainings or guidance that we can provide you in future meetings, especially around HOTMA, and we look forward to presenting that at future meetings. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our colleagues over at the Field Operations Division. Carissa?
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Carissa Stiers, your Field Operations Division Director. And I want to kick off with always a reminder of our wonderful Field Operations Division regional directors who continue to be used as a point of contact for our external stakeholders in regards to our 515, 514 built portfolio. Just to run down the regions, we have Eric in the Midwest, Donna in the Northeast, Byron in the South, and Becky in the West. Great resources, great contacts, should you need to connect with any one of our regions. And to that point, next slide, please. Here's a reminder of our regional breakdown, how our states are organized in the 4 regions within Field Operations Division. And please note here, if you're not familiar with, please get familiar with our contacts with our regional mailboxes. A great way to connect with your regions should you have a question on who your servicing specialist is, a general question for Field Operations Division, or anything that you may not have an alternate contact to go to, like your specific loan specialist. You can certainly reach out to our regional mailboxes. Those are monitored by region, and responses are generally pretty quick, either to get a response back to you or shifted to the appropriate person to respond back to an inquiry. So please take note of that and use those at your will. As Angela noted at the top of the conversation, our efforts are heavily focused right now with emergency management, given the ongoing efforts with the devastation left behind by Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. Much internal conversation is going on right now in regards to emergency management pre-event as well as post-event, and the flexibilities that we can exercise relative to properties that are impacted by these disasters. So as we get through these events, as the weather event passes, please work with your loan specialist to engage with them in regards to the damage should you have had a property, or should you have a property in the impacted counties, impacted areas left by the hurricanes or any other natural event that is caused and declared by FEMA as a disaster. These are the degrees of damages that we are reporting into a central reporting mechanism internally in terms of the properties that are impacted: affected, minor, major, destroyed, or inaccessible. And I'm not going to go through and read each of the definitions, but this is how we define the degree of damage. As I indicated, we track that for our FEMA declared disaster declared counties, and we monitor that internally in regards to our built portfolio that is damaged by our natural disasters. We are also tracking as a part of that habitable, uninhabitable units and displaced tenants at the property level based on feedback from management. So again, when it's safe to do so, please engage with your servicing specialist. Should you not have the ability to get a hold of them, again, turn to your regional directors or there's regional mailboxes. Should you be having a hard time getting a hold of your specialist. We're also tracking LOPE letters that we're delivering to tenants and rental assistance attached to those LOPE letters that may be moving from property to property based on displaced tenants that are caused by the disaster. And with that, you want to turn. I want to remind borrowers and management agents and tenants that if a tenant is displaced from a Section 515 or Section 514 property due to a disaster or required to be evacuated in a pre-disaster event, they are eligible for a letter of priority entitlement or a LOPE letter. The servicing specialist can provide that LOPE letter to a tenant or management agent on behalf of a tenant. And you will also find on our website, our public-facing website, fact sheets regarding our LOPE letters, and those are found in both English and Spanish versions. Next slide, please. And as we prepare for events that we are aware of in advance, we have enhanced our public-facing website to include disaster and emergency information and resources that anyone can access. As we continue to navigate the post-disaster efforts and learn about opportunities that we can better enhance communication with our stakeholders, we will continue to modify our public-facing website to provide additional resources that can be utilized, again, pre-event and post-event based on the impacted areas. Next slide. Turning now to budgets, our field operations division teams are currently in what we call our budget season. So just a few reminders that please ensure that proposed budget submissions are, of course, submitted with all required information that multifamily housing needs to review to make decisions on your budget. Please remember to provide supporting documentation relative to rent increases as those budgets get submitted. And please review the timelines of budget submissions, particularly those that do or are asking for rent increases. Those budgets are due 90 days prior to the implementation of a rent increase. And those adhering to those timelines really assist the agency in meeting the timelines and getting those budgets reviewed and returned back to the properties. And you'll see there at the bottom of the slide, we have a recorded proposed budget training for stakeholders that is also on our public-facing website. It's easy to access, it's recorded, has a wonderful PowerPoint presentation. So if you're not familiar with the budget process, please turn to that training and feel free to use that in support of your submission. And I think we've got a poll question coming up. One of the things that we're focused on for fiscal year 2025 is training, both internal and external to our stakeholders. So we do want to hear some feedback from you in regards to what training will benefit you the most as a borrower, management agent, or even a site manager at the property level. Our first poll question here, as I stated, for fiscal year 2025, what type of training would site managers benefit from most? And we gave some examples there. Tenant certification training, reasonable accommodation training. What are some thoughts that you have for site managers for training opportunities for this fiscal year? And it is a typed answer, so we'll give you a bit of time here to respond. And poll question number 2. So below, we've identified 5 servicing related training topics. What we'd like for you to do is rank 1 to 5. 1 being the most important, which training topic would benefit you the most? We've got budgets, insurance, tenant certs and project worksheets, waiting list management, and annual reports. And Scott, if you want to cue in where we're at.
Sure. We're hanging right at 20%.
All
It is
right.
climbing. So thank you folks for
Perfect.
your participation. This is a good one. Let's hang tight a little bit if you don't mind. And,
Perfect. No, thank
get
you.
maximum participation today.
Appreciate the feedback so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the participation. I look forward to evaluating the results and launching some training efforts for you in fiscal year 2025. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our friends in the Production and Preservation Division. Dan, I believe I'm passing it off to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Carissa, and good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be with you again. Just a couple quick leadership updates from P2 before we get into 2 big customer service enhancement initiatives that we're working on. But first and foremost, very recently over the summer, we're pleased to announce that Katrina Mosley has accepted the Chief Credit Officer position here in Production and Preservation, which I commonly refer to as P2. Katrina joins us internally from the Processing and Report Review branch. She was the branch chief for Branch 2. That position has been filled by Jennifer Dillard, who joins us from the closing branch as the branch chief in Team 2. And the vacancy that she created has been filled by Holly Self, who again is helping us out as acting branch chief, like she did earlier in the summer. Really excited to make these announcements. We have a fantastic leadership team. For those that are new to the conversation today, the Production and Preservation Division oversees what we call the Multifamily Housing Lending Suite, and that is the multifamily housing direct loan and guaranteed programs, some preservation resources, and some technical assistance resources. We are structured like a modernized affordable housing business line, where we have a application intake, processing, and report review, an underwriting division, a team that handles all of our closings, and then our program support that's led by Abby Boggs, that helps us with all of the things that are associated with our not only our funding rounds, but the management of day-to-day operations. So we have a lot of activity going on within our business line. I think, over 1,000 transactions. We currently have 3 open funding opportunities, which I'm not going to talk too much about today unless we get any questions in the Q&A piece. But in addition to that, we work collaboratively with our other divisions, and then some of the other offices external to multifamily housing here at USDA, and then of course you as our industry partners. And the 2 things that I want to talk about today, next slide. The first is going to be the launching of our construction monitoring pilot. So this is in direct response to our industry partner feedback, you all, our partners, who have communicated to us some of the issues that are encountered when we have transactions that construction draws are being requested, funds that are not ours, but other third-party funds that by regulation we're still required to review. We collaborated with our industry partners, some of our internal partners here in multifamily housing. We've assembled a pilot that we're ready to roll out. And really what it does is it'll simplify the applicant submission process and the agency review requirements for certain types of transactions. And it allows us to rely more on our third-party lender and investor reviews. So it creates, a greater element of reliability, of trust with our industry partners, and it should result in a faster processing time frame with these reviews. And then being able to rely on our industry partner reviews. We'll certainly expedite these reviews and get the money released much faster. We're creating a risk-based approach. And we really did design this to promote collaboration and trust across our industry partners. So we're about to launch an internal training process that is slated to start in the next couple of weeks, and then we will communicate with our industry partners the effective date of and which transactions are applicable and eligible under this pilot that'll happen right around the 1st of November. So this really is a process improvement for us. It really is designed to process construction draw reviews faster, to not hold them up, particularly in instances when we know that we have reliable industry partners that are already looking at these draws. And where we've determined that there really isn't an elevated mission or credit risk to rely on our industry partners completing this review. So this is a long time coming. I really appreciate the feedback and the collaboration from the industry first, raising the issue to our attention. And then collaboratively working with us to identify which types of transactions we would be most useful to include in the pilot. And then, of course, after we anticipate about a year to 18 months, when we have sufficient data to review the results of the pilot, to analyze any exposures to mission and credit risk that may have been encountered, and to see to what degree we can expand the pilot or continue it, or potentially apply the review to other transactions, and really put us in a position to not hold up the flow of credit or the release of sources to make sure that obviously contractors and transactions are being paid on time. So more information to come, and for any feedback or questions, you can contact Jonathan Bell, the branch director for the processing and report review branch. The next thing that I want to talk about is pretty similar as it relates to industry feedback. So again, we have been exploring different ways to process transfers and simple transfers, to try to expedite reviews, to try to make it as less cumbersome as we can make it to our industry partners. And there are a lot of things, there are a lot of contributing factors to this. This process can get pretty complicated depending on the transaction type, depending on who is involved in the review of certain aspects. And hearing our industry partners loud and clear, and recognizing ourselves when we analyze processing timeframes in our own business line, that we really need to take an intensified look at how we're going to mitigate some of the issues that contribute to these delays. So what we did, based on some industry feedback and based on some very strong collaboration with a state office director working group and the other divisions in multifamily housing, as we've begun a mapping process that really analyzes every step and every pain point in the application and review process. So from before an application is even submitted to us, all the different points where it exits the multifamily housing business line to either be reviewed internally to USDA, but external to multifamily housing for third-party reviews, the involvement of our Office of General Counsel, which I think people know is not under the purview of multifamily housing, and really going through every point in the process to identify where we can gain efficiencies through some type of improvement, some type of regulatory relief, whatever it is that can be done to modernize the process. So we've had a series of, I want to say we're about 6 or 7 meetings deep now, and we've had an opportunity to get some really good feedback from frontline processors, the leadership team, our partners that are internal to USDA, and of course the ongoing feedback that we get from our agency. And we held a stakeholder engagement session on September 5th and collected some really good feedback there too. So we have a lot of information, and our next steps are to prioritize those pain points that I talked about, and see what we can take a look at in terms of reducing some of the administrative burden. So our goal is to complete everything by the second quarter of FY25, and we're on track to meet that goal. So it's an interesting and exciting opportunity for us. It really, again, was born out of our collaboration with you, our industry partners, being able to rely on you giving us some really good examples of feedback, and some really good examples of industry practices, and industry standards, really with the goal of, again, improving customer service and enhancing our relationship with our partners. So really exciting stuff that we're working on, and those are two really big initiatives for P2 that are outside of the business line that we're working on right now. I think with that, though, we also have a poll. And this is going to be, so just like we always ask, what do you want to hear about? To try to take advantage of the time that we have together, communicate to us what it is you would like to hear more about, any new construction funding rounds or strategies, anything in the preservation space in terms of funding rounds and strategies, available technical assistance opportunities. These are all funding opportunities that we have open and available now. Or that's just maybe an overall conversation about what's on our policy plate, what's next for policy and program improvements. So I'll give you a chance to respond to that, and then Scott, when we have some responses, you want to air them, just let me know.
Sounds good, Dan. Yeah, we're creeping on 50%, so I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll, and we can discuss a little bit. I'm sharing the results now.
All right, that's excellent. Excellent preservation, as expected for the and some folks in this audience may have joined us earlier today for our MPR 515 NOFA industry listening session, preservation funding rounds and strategies, hot topic. And then we have a lot of work, a lot of very exciting work to come in FY25 that we can spend a little bit of time on during our next partnership meeting. The production and preservation, the policy plate, excellent. Good information, and really helpful feedback to help me prepare and report out what we'll be talking about in future sessions. Thank you for responding to that. And then the only thing that I want to cover briefly before I hand it over to Scott to go through the Q&A. So this is just a slide that we share: multifamily housing communications, our central phone number, our email address, our website, our updated organizational structure, sort of a list of servicing specialists. We get that question a lot. How do I find who my current servicing specialist is? All very helpful information. And then the last thing, the Gov Delivery, I can't recommend enough folks signing up for Gov Delivery. In addition to things being announced in the Federal Register, that really is our most readily available and widest broadcast in terms of a platform to get the latest information on our policy updates, our funding opportunities, our listening sessions. Really good way to stay informed, and I hope people sign up for that. And then if you have any questions, again, I know that my email address isn't on here, but daniel.rogers and then the number 2 at USDA.gov. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. And then I think that's it for me. Next, I think, is the Q&A slide. And then, Scott, if you want to facilitate the questions that we have, we can route them to the appropriate leadership member here to respond.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that, Dan, and thank you, Carissa and team as well. We're going to move on to the questions that from the Q&A. There's only a few. We do encourage you guys to ask some questions, either your hand or Q&A. Question 1, how do we navigate the issue of having to provide notice 24 to 36 months in advance of maturation with the fact that the SARA program is only going year by year? anyone could jump on that.
Sure, I'll take that. Currently, we still we're working on additional guidance because of the SARA program, but we still will provide owners with notification 2 to 3 years prior to their loan maturing, just so that they know what options are available to them going forward. Now, as far as tenant notifications, we would still like to provide tenants notifying them for the borrowers to notify the tenants that the property will be maturing within such period of time. But at that time, when it matures, what options are available to them may change. We are preparing tenant notification letters for a borrower that would opt into the SARA program and explain that to them. Or if they mature and would like to enter into the voucher program. So there will be varying letters that will be provided for tenants, but we still would like borrowers to, first off, know that their loan are maturing, and second of all, that they notify tenants of the pending maturity and what may go forward further on. So we are still, but we're working through the new SARA program, what enhancements we may get through Appropriations Act, but we still want to make sure that owners and tenants are notified of what the current maturity date of the property is. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, sir. So not a question, but Kim wanted to give a shout out to our loan specialist, Jody Allgood, as we provided our budget approval in record time and is much appreciated. Thank you, Kim.
Hey Scott, this is Carissa. If you don't mind, if I can respond to that, really appreciate that kudos, and we're going to pass that on to not only her but her supervisor. So appreciate the great feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Carissa. And this is for the team again. Can you address the agency's position on maturing MPR debt deferrals?
I can address that, Scott. This is Dan. Excellent question. Thank you, Thomas. The agency views maturing MPR debt deferrals similarly to how we're viewing maturing mortgages. They continue. A really good example of that is the inclusion of maturing MPR debt deferrals as one of the eligibility criteria in the MPR 515 preservation NOFA that was just issued I think it was about 2 weeks ago now. And we just had our industry listening session today. So not only is it an eligibility criteria and prioritizing debt deferrals that expire before January 1st, 2028, but also priority points are eligible in the NOFA for such cases. So it's something that we continue to take a look at. They're a priority asset for us to continue to preserve and maintain and keep in the portfolio. And the reflection of that is how we're prioritizing such assets in our funding opportunities moving forward. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Dan. And if not, you could always provide clarifying questions to the Q&A. Moving on here, the next question. So insurance companies are sending non-renewal notices. Underwriting and age of property seems to be the main issues. How should we navigate through this challenge?
Hey Scott, this is Angela. And what I would like to share with the industry is we recognize that this is happening in many states. We also recognize that there are insurance companies who are leaving certain states. And this is a high priority for us to be focusing on in this next first and second quarter of 2025. For those on this call and other individuals that participate in our program, you should expect to see a request for a stakeholder listening session specifically around the challenges with insurance, what you're experiencing, and we'll be looking for that feedback from you. Also talking with our partners at HUD and other housing industry partners as well. More to come on that. I will share with you that we recognize it's a challenge. I will also share with you that I have shared this challenge up to our appropriators and congressional leaders as we think about what budget increases might need to be to navigate the cost increases, and also the fact that we are having significant challenge in ensuring that our properties have the adequate insurance that they need.
Thank you, Angela. So when rent increases are approved from the USDA budget for the upcoming year, I find the USDA MI&C project worksheet is not always updated to match the approved budget in January 24. How can this be done more seamlessly?
Great question. I will have to I'll have to talk with our programmers because I believe those project worksheets are released on the 20th of December that are paid on January 10th with an effective date of January 1. So I want to make sure that if that is the issue or what is causing that, because once that budget is approved in the system, it should automatically go into effect. So I'll talk to our programmers and see if there is something that's causing that we get that corrected.
Great, thank you, sir. In the past, USDA endorsed advanced training that met qualified, cost-effective, long-distance training. Could that be done again? And I can repeat the question if you'd like.
I'm going to ask for some, Leroy, I'm going to ask for some clarification here. Are you asking about travel expense to go to the training as to be a project expense? If you could just type it in the chat or anything, if that's what you're looking for. And again, it is cost effective and needed, then we could, that's something that we would have to look at. But I assume that's what you're going at here, that you're looking for travel expense to an advanced training that is needed for the property.
Thank you. Yeah, and and Gregory,
yeah. And I did see he did put there were STAR certified trainings in Spectrum. And yes, and they're providing trainings now for HOTMA and all that. We do those would be, again, those are the training for your staff to prepare the project worksheets in that, and the tenant certifications would be an allowable expense for your site manager.
Awesome, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and I have a feeling I'm gonna ask Gregory to take himself off mute and ask the question to the group here. I'm wondering if it's related or not. But Gregory, go ahead and unmute yourself, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is Gregory.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to interact with all of you guys. I've been an owner for some 46 years, and I believe this is the first time I've ever been on a session like this. I have a question specifically about insurance that you were talking about earlier, and you said that y'all were going to be addressing that issue in the first and second quarter of 2025. This is my situation. I'd like to know if you can even give me some guidance, and that is in Southeast Louisiana, it is virtually impossible to purchase hurricane insurance. There is no insurance company that will write wind and hail insurance. Our project went from paying $30,000 a year for insurance to a proposal that it would cost $177,000 for the premium with a $1.6 million hurricane deductible. Those numbers seem mind-boggling, but it's been 2 years in a row. And since there is no possible way to raise the rents high enough to cover that, I wonder what exposure do I have as an owner legally for the fact that I can not possibly pay for insurance.
Gregory, thank you for being an owner for 40 years. Really appreciate the engagement, and I'm grateful that you were able to join us today and to raise your very specific situations. I can't, and the team can't provide you with any kind of legal guidance. However, based on what you're sharing with me, I would ask that we have a conversation with you individually and really think through what possibilities or what options you might have to ensure that your properties are secure and that that your risks that we're talking through all the risks that you've raised in this situation. It's really important to me, and I've shared since I stepped into this role in multifamily housing, to hear the specifics. It's really powerful for me to be able to take these very specific examples to our appropriators and really talk about the changing landscape of the budgets and all the impacts that or all the effects that have an impact on our properties and our tenants and the rents and the rental assistance. It's a very complex situation, but it's very helpful. Gregory, thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to ask that our team, Carissa, if you could get us a conversation specifically with Gregory, I would really appreciate further discussion. And I will open the door for any other owners or management agents for that same opportunity as well.
I appreciate that very much. Carissa, what do you need from me? Do you have my email address from my signing on for today's meeting?
I can get your contact information from the registration. Scott, is there a way for me to put my contact in the chat to Gregory since he came on live? I can do that as well. I can put my email address in there. But Gregory, I will get it from the registration. Sure thing. And really
Okay.
appreciate the conversation today.
Well, I heard earlier someone was complimenting their service rep for helping with the budget. So I will add to that our service rep is named Linda Broussard. She is out of Lafayette, Louisiana, and she has been enormously helpful. And by her own admission, this is an extremely difficult situation that she is trying to help us navigate. But she has been amazingly open and helpful to us.
Great. Thank you so much, Gregory, and thank you, Angela and Carissa, for following up.
Thank you, Gregory, for that. I will pass that on to Linda for sure. Appreciate that very much, and I will be back in touch. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's awesome. Loving the love here. I'm going to get back to the questions in the Q&A. I think we're about 6 minutes left, so I'm going to try to run through these. Will the terms and conditions of the SARA for properties aging out of the 515 program be released for comment? It's hard to comment meaningfully on, quote, decoupling in the air.
I'll take that. And Angela, you may want to chime in. But again, our Federal Register notice is a notice of the program because it's only eligible to the borrowers that will be maturing within that fiscal year. We do plan on holding additional stakeholder listening sessions and engagement. We do want to hear after that notice has been released or as we develop the program for future years on any enhancements you would like to see. But again, we will be doing a notice of the actual SARA program, but you're more than welcome to comment on it, but there won't be a per se comment period on the notice because we're announcing a funding opportunity. Again, non-competitive because right now that every owner that is maturing within the fiscal year 24 and through the CR have the ability to apply. But we will continue to have stakeholder engagements to increase participation in the program, and we really want you to help us design the program to meet the needs of the aging portfolio.
And Mike, I would just add, this is Angela. I would just add that we are continuing to look retrospectively. So for those of you who may not be aware, the 2024 notice is posted on the website. That was provided to the individual borrowers who had maturing mortgages in 2024. So that notice is out there. That's the notice that we are building from. looking retrospectively at perhaps some of the comments that were provided where individuals didn't participate in 2024. And then, of course, enhancing and in adding additional features for 2025, like Mike talked about during his presentation. We will continue to have stakeholder engagement and encourage you to provide as much information and questions and comments around this process as we go. And we will continue to incorporate what makes sense and what is effective for the program, and also continue to look retrospectively at participation and other areas of consideration to preserve housing once a mortgage has matured and paid off.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
In regard to reserve requests, is the agency planning to issue an increase to the amount requiring pre-authorization, noting that the amount has not changed in many years?
Great news for everybody. We are currently, we have current policy that is working through clearance right now that we will be updating the reserve bid requirements and reserve and all of that. We hope to have that out probably in the next 60 days, but it's something that we have heard from you as our stakeholders, and we are trying to make efficiencies and provide you with some relief there, as well as our staff. So all I can say is stay tuned, and I think that everybody will be happy with the outcome of the updated policy.
Awesome, thank you. I know we're running up onto time here.
And Scott, there is the first question about the HUD market rents and the last one. I believe they go together. So
sure, I'll go ahead and if you want me to pose that, no problem.
Yeah.
Yep. Will there come
go ahead.
Pardon me. Will there come a time when we just use HUD market rents rather than submitting rent increase proposals? They ask about the HUD market rents as vouchers automatically pay at that rate. Makes sense the RA can pay the same amount?
Okay, so we have looked at the HUD fair market rent proposal. Again, that does have an effect on the rental assistance budget and appropriation. We have had active conversations on that. I will just, as an example, we do see that fair market rents are in some areas might not meet the budgetary needs, and in other areas it's far surpasses the budgetary needs of the project. And again, our goal and our mission is to provide a safe, decent, sanitary, affordable housing. We're not saying that we're not open to it. It is something that we will look at over time. But I want to be clear that someone was asking about HUD market rents as vouchers. Vouchers are not set at HUD fair market rents. Vouchers are set on what area market rents studies are done for that area where that property matures. So there is a disparity between fair market rents and voucher rents. So again, sometimes, so that's why I want to make sure that rental assistance that is either based on a SARA, that's fair market rents, or a budget-based need of that project may be different than voucher rents that are provided. So I just want to make that clarification in there. Do appreciate the comment about the fair market rents. It is a discussion that we are having at the leadership level.
Thank you. That closes out the question and answer segment. I'd like to hand it back over to Angela or Mike or whoever wants to leave us with some closing remarks.
Thank you, Scott. I just want to say thank you to everyone on the call today. Thank you for your participation, the questions, and I look forward to our continued collaboration and discussions on these partnership calls, and just want to say thank you. Have a great rest of your day.